Good afternoon / evening. How's everyone doing? Woo! Oh, come on, y'all can do better. 1, 2, 3, do better. Pew, pew, pew. That is better.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's great.
Hey, my name's Tanya. I've been on a lot of panels this weekend, and only because I love Megaran did I agree to moderate this panel, because I've been on 4 this weekend, so this is proof I love this man. That's about me. My name's Tanya. I'm a partner Twitch streamer, do a lot of variety, other stuff. I'm the director of I Need Diverse Games nonprofit, which if you've seen that tag on Twitter, that was me being mad about video games online about 5 years ago. I am on Rivals of Waterdeep, which is a D&D live play show on the official Wizards of the Coast Twitch channel, and I also GM on Roll20 for Modificus Star Trek. So, you may be wondering why we're all here. The NPC, which is Nerdy People of Color, was started in 2013 by Megaran after a meeting at Nerdapalooza. Its goal is to increase the focus and action plan on inclusion and celebration of diverse individuals within vocations that many people view as desirable within the arts and more. And today, everyone on the panel will talk about what all that we can do to help. You can hashtag the panel, please live tweet with NPC panel when you are discussing this online. So Megaran and Austin, tell us more about this and your involvement, what motivated you to start it, and so forth.
Okay, I feel like a lot of it started, 2013 is a good starting point in Nerdapalooza. I believe I met you there. I met Creative Mindframe, Doug Funny. So many other folks were there. And I believe, I don't know who came up with it first, but I don't know. But it's definitely a joint thing where we were both like, man, like nerds of color need to get together. And this is so cool that all of us kind of found each other. And when we step into different spaces, we kind of all point each other out. Like, I'm not the only one, come here. So we all start to get to know each other just based on that. And we realize how much we're alike. And I remember you saying like, no, we gotta do this. We gotta get people that are in these quote unquote desirable positions, people like athletes, actors, rappers, musicians, wrestlers, football players, just like people who are into what we're into, that are living these amazing lives, what people see on TV, but they don't ever get to see what's behind the lens. And I want to get them to embrace their nerdy side so that kids at home who watch them don't think that they're as different as they think they are. You can pick up a little bit on that.
So pretty much everything that he just said, but, and I'm finished. No, it's just a way for people to come together, like you said, from different walks of life, so we can kind of all have a place to tell our stories, for people to learn about us, but then also at the same time for people that, just because it's nerdy people of color, it's because NPC, it works, it's funny. But it's literally, it's for everybody, representation for everybody, but we want to make sure that there are kids that can look at us and say, oh, you look like me, and you're not only a nerd, but you also do this, this, and this. You don't have to be in a box. You don't have to be one thing. You don't have to be what the world perceives you to be. Just be who you are and what you are. So that's essentially the message that we kind of collectively want to push out there, because it's not necessarily something that we had when we were kids. And I mean, we're all adults here, so it was a little bit harder because of those things. They see you, and I think it's Donald Glover has a pretty funny stand-up, and he talks about like, oh, when I went to this new school, I was like the one black kid, so they're like, oh, tell us what the cool shoes are and the cool hats. He's like, oh, dude, I just watch anime. And like, no, you're black. You tell us what the cool shoes are. So it's like, no, that's how people see it sometimes. And so we want to make sure that kids know, like, no, you don't have to be in that box. You can be literally whatever you want to be. As cliche as it sounds, like it's the truth.
All right, so now that we've learned about the NPC Collective, everyone starting at the end, please tell us who you are, what you do.
Starting at the end.
You.
It's actually really muffled. I mean, it's really like...
I can't actually understand what's being said on that side. So all I heard was, and then everybody was looking.
So was it like, okay, give me the other mic.
We need monitors or something.
Yeah.
So was that the Charlie Brown teacher noise that you heard?
Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, got it.
Who are you?
So,
This man.
so hello everybody. I am IQ, who's currently posting to let people know to get to this room. But My name is IQ. I am a MC. I also do videography, photography, and I am a talent booker.
Yeah.
I think that's good enough, right?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Creative Mind Frame. That's an inside joke. I'm Kadesh Flow. I live in Kansas City. I'm from Alabama. I rap and play trombone and make beats and do some other things. And I enjoy long walks on the beach.
My name is Kyle Murdoch, K. Murdoch. According to the Meet the Players slide up, I am the audio director of the NPC and a core member. So no, actually, I'm a producer, music producer, audio creative, and a teacher at Howard University, HU, you know.
My name is Creative Mindframe, and also according to the Meet the Players slide, I am the general manager of the NPC Collective. I manage a process improvement team at a pretty big company. So I teach classes and I fix problems, but I also rap and play the saxophone. So you usually might see me on somebody's set in the back dancing and trying to play the saxophone with one hand.
He also plays trombone.
Oh, yeah. They found out yesterday that I played trombone. I played trombone a little bit. And then hopefully if I get selected this year, plugging myself, I might be on American Ninja Warrior. I just finally submitted my audition tape. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Hopefully I get on there.
Yes.
My name is Austin Creed. I also play trombone. I am a professional wrestler and a core member of the NPC. Yes.
I'm really mad y'all got this.
Hey, y'all.
I didn't even look.
My name is Megaran. I'm founder and core member, which means I just sat one day across from them at a dinner table and said, you know what would be cool? That kind of makes you a founder, which I think is a great message for anybody. You can literally create anything. It's just that when you get those ideas, please follow up. I mean, this is real. Because you know how many conversations I have with people, it would be cool if somebody put video games with rap. Somebody else should do that, you know what I mean? And it's like, I was the guy who did that. So now when I run into people at shows, they're like, I had that idea years ago. I'm like, I did it, you know? So remember, like, coming up with the idea is the smallest part of the problem. It's the next part of the puzzle is where you can create something awesome. So I'll say all that to say, my name is Megaran. Hi.
All right, so I'm Shubzilla. What else is there? I'm from Seattle, Washington. I am a rapper. I sometimes cook, and I charge people for me cooking for them. But I also am one of the co-founders of a nonprofit called Geek Girl Con. Perhaps you've heard of us. Or not, whatever. We'll talk.
Her lumpy is fire.
They can't hear me.
I think so. That was a little louder.
All right, I'm gonna try this one. Hopefully folks can hear me. All right, so I got some questions, but
Not yet.
hold on.
So we're going to talk a little bit just about a year with the NPC Collective, or just kind of what we do to promote the NPC Collective, and cons we go to or community events that we stay involved with.
All right. Yeah. What's this one?
Anything you want to talk about. You can talk about MAGFest, you can talk about Otakon, you can talk about fundraisers that you do, CEO,
Yeah.
anything that we're involved with that helps promote the NPC Collective.
We try
We're gonna
we
toss
try
that
to
round
make sure.
table.
Yeah, we'll do a little round table. We get to a lot of conventions, whether all of us or at least parts of us, as many as we can. We're all spread out all over the country, which is, I think, a great thing because we're able to hit our regional events and then still represent the same message, or at least a version of this, And I think just from being there, I think the appearance is the number one most important thing. Yes. And being present at these events to let people know that we are here. There are people here that are different, that are not like straight white dudes. And so I just think that's super important to let people know, like, oh, wait, there's other types of folks of people. And I think as conventions get bigger, especially this one, seeing the increase in like people of color and just different marginalized folks, I absolutely love it. And I think that we want to always promote that. And I think we appreciate that. Anything else?
Does anybody want to chip in or make a statement as to why that is so important? What's the benefit that we all get? I mean, because you can look at something from a different lens or just one lens and say, okay, well, why does that affect me? But just looking at the inclusion and the diversity, right? We get different viewpoints. I'm kind of answering my own question. We get different viewpoints, right? And we get to understand.
You're answering the question.
I just wanted to say it, so I pitched it up as a question.
Say it.
So, okay, go ahead, Chris. You know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, I know what you're getting into. So here's the thing, right? Diversity is important no matter where you go, but perception is everything, right? So within our world, man, we are often perceived as many things that we are not always, So for example, I'm pretty sure many of you have noticed growing up that there are even people within your demographic where they don't necessarily understand or say, okay, well, man, you watch anime. Why are you always watching those cartoons? It's anime, bro. There's a big difference. And a lot of us, we know that same pain. We know how it feels to be persecuted, made fun of. And now, Xavier, you said it earlier, now we're older and we run stuff. So
Now we're old and we run stuff.
So now you just got to take it, and we ain't going nowhere. So making sure that there are safe spaces where we can see people that look like us, that have our experiences, that have felt the things that we felt and felt alone, we want to make sure that we're visible, that we are there for people to see, that people know that no matter what stage of that you're going through, right, that not only are we here, we're dope. Are we not? Are we not dope?
I think it's also important to mention that in celebrating something that we enjoy about ourselves, I want to share with everyone, especially the youth, it's not a negative thing against anyone else. I think that sometimes when you celebrate your background, whether it's your religion, your ethnicity, whatever it is, I feel like sometimes celebrating that, other people who aren't a part of that group tend to say, oh, so you hate everything else. It's like, no, not at all. I'm just happy that I'm me and that I can hopefully reach out and help someone who was like me or who is like me and that's a kid, because again, we didn't have those things. So just want to make sure everybody knows that. Yeah. It's all inclusion.
All right, now I get to ask questions. This is what happens when you are asked to moderate 10 minutes before the panel. Yeah. Hey, I'm glad to be up here. So because of the amount of folks on stage, just a couple folks answer questions. And of course, my phone wants to go to sleep. So for whoever wants to answer, how has the face of your field changed in the past 5 years? And what do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
How's the face of what?
Your field, so what you're doing.
Okay, I could take that. So I definitely, I was in the corporate world. I kind of am in a lot of jazz spaces now. And I'd say the face of what I'm doing right now has changed pretty dramatically, because there was so long where jazz is doing something that we are trying to A, prevent from happening to hip hop, and B, trying to reverse in nerdy spaces, which is jazz has been very sterilized and whitewashed. And it happened between two things. That happened when it hit academia, and people who could afford to go to college to take it. That's great, but there was some stuff that happened there that caused it to be sterilized. And also when enough people saturated it, trying to make money off of it. What's happened now is you have a lot of jazz artists who are embracing hip hop, the connections between the cultures, and also who are recognizing the brilliance of composition in things like video games. And so you have a lot of jazz groups that'll quote something from a Mega Man soundtrack or a Zelda soundtrack or what have you. You have a lot of jazz artists do it collaborating with hip hop artists, which is what I do a lot of now. That's relevant to this because I think relative to me and relative to the collective, I think we have such a diverse range of musical influences and talents. Like Creative Mind Frame and I rap and play instruments. We impromptu horn section, everyone who wants one, we do it on the fly. I think it's really important because, A, we're able to speak to the fact that we're here, we're people of color, from marginalized groups, we belong in these spaces, we're dope. We're dope as MCs. We're also challenging the perception that rap is not music, which is kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that we've had to fight so hard to be here. And I think in the next 5 years, I would say that integration will become more prominent, because what's happening now is people are saying, oh, we've never seen this before with a lot of stuff that we're doing. And I could rattle off projects that people would consider integrative, innovative, or groundbreaking. People write about it and all that good stuff. As that kind of moves in more, I think you'll just see more of an audience developing from it and an appreciation for it. And what's happened with something like the NPC, there are way more people of color who are geeks and nerds coming out like, hey, we're here because we didn't think we could be here, we didn't think we belonged, and now we're here. So that process is going to continue, and I think that'll be a really beautiful thing. But that's just my opinion.
Or even the subject matter in which we talk about, you know?
Yep.
Talking to the mic.
Because Kenny G created jazz, right? Oh, okay. George Michael.
I'm just not going to respond to that.
Unfortunately, I come from an education background, so that's not the unfortunate part. But sorry,
Look, I worked
words
at
were
higher
mixed
ed, too.
around a little bit. I spent 8 years teaching elementary school, middle school, and what I saw happening in my field was it was getting a lot younger. You know, I remember, probably most of us growing up, we have that old perception of the old teacher who has no idea what's going on. Hey kids, who's talking, who's throwing that paper? You know, now my entire school was, 25 to 30-year-old teachers. But the sad part of that is where I saw that going is that the good teachers were attempting to eventually graduate out of teaching and go into administration, because one, that's where the money is, and two, that's where like less of the headache is, and the accountability, unfortunately. So I saw some things happening in academia that made it unfortunate for me, because I just didn't like the direction it was going in. I felt like no one wanted to deal with the headache, and I feel like younger people in general have that type of mentality. We're like, oh man, forget this, I'll go get another job, So I think that our parents' generation was more likely to say, you're supposed to hate your job. You're supposed to not like it. It's what feeds your family. Now do it, And we don't believe that at all, which I think is awesome. We're challenging that. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I think that's just going to continue to increase and just go on further and further. And unfortunately, I think it's the children, not to make it too bleak, that might suffer for that, because I feel like a lot of us are realizing that if something doesn't happen within like the structure of pay and equal pay and all these things, if these things don't happen, more and more people are going to quit their jobs and become creatives, and Twitch is just going to be overflowing if it's not already. I think people are just like, yo, I'm going to take a chance and bet on myself. And I think that's going to continue to increase. That's my take on that.
Cool. So let's jump around a little bit. And I was wondering, who wants to address what are common misconceptions people have about what you do and who you are as creators?
Where's your gold chain? You're a rapper. That's like the biggest one for me.
Yeah. I'm really curious about Austin's possible answer, because you are so varied in what you do.
Okay, so there's like levels to it. So at one point, this was years ago, someone heard me speak somewhere and go, wow, surprised that you're so eloquent.
Oh, did they pull out Speak So Well?
Classic. Classic.
Like that's what they did. My God.
But it wasn't just me. There were a lot of us who were black, and we had been doing stuff. We were doing an exercise. We had to talk a lot, and then the person who was there was like, "Wow, yeah, I'm just very impressed that all of the black talent, that all the black talent's so articulate." We were just like, it's like, and it's like old people. So you're like, they're trying to be nice and compliment, but they don't realize, like, that's you're getting there, but you're not quite yet. Like,
You're not gonna teach them.
yeah. So yeah, like you said, to teach. There's a difference between like insults and ignorance. So it's one of those situations. But on an easier scale, lots of people just say like, oh, you're a wrestler. Oh, you're pretty short. so they think we should all be like 6'2" and like 300 pounds. And so it's a normal thing. That's why like all my gear is very flashy, because it's like, oh, look, I look like a wrestler now. Look at me. That's the main thing. There hasn't been a lot of stuff that I guess that we've had to deal with involving race. We've been very lucky because a lot of the guys guys and girls who came through before us dealt with a lot of that stuff, and they put a lot of it to rest for us. Obviously, it's the same as anything else. Trying to find ways to have more representation. But again, we've been very lucky in being able to achieve certain things that were kind of above the glass ceiling before. So I think a lot of the things that people used to think about wrestling has changed through our group, because we come out, if you don't know, we come out with like unicorns, and we have a cereal, and I have come out with a trombone. Like it's like a fever dream. And so we're not only trying to change the stereotype of what professional wrestlers are, but what black professional wrestlers are. And that just all that's happened to just be like things in our interest. We can just kind of blank slate and be whatever. So that's pretty much the fight that we've been fighting.
Also, changing what the perceptions, someone said it earlier. So one of the things touching on is that I noticed over the last couple of years especially, right, is there's becoming an emergence of people who say, man, I want to rap about video games too, right? This dude paved the way for people that look like us and has inspired everybody up here to say, man, I can do that too, and I would like to do that too, and think that it's cool and okay to do, right? Like, we're at a convention where people rap about video games, and that's cool. You know, like, you bought a ticket to be here and hear us talk about whether it's a video game, a worldly experience of some sort or another, but they're all from a perspective that isn't called or looked at as rap. I've heard so many times, like, oh, well, I don't like rap music, but I like you. You know, like, we've all heard that at some point in time. And that part, it breaks perceptions of what it should be. Because there's lots of times where I go to a place and I say that I'm a rapper, and I get stereotypical, like, rap guy things. They all think we're trap rappers talking about drugs. And I'm like, nah, actually, I talk about love, life, anime, and video games, because that's what I'm about every day. So I think seeing that and seeing how many people, that people like Rand has inspired to actually take up the mantle and say, yo, hip-hop can be whatever we want it to be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this stereotypical stuff that the mainstream media is stuffing down your throats. That's it.
I think I said it on stage last night that, so many of the musicians here that we're going to see throughout the weekend are completely amazing, like genius level musicians that just happen to love video games. And I think that the outside world a lot of times places that qualifier on them, like, well, you're so good, but if you just didn't sing video game tunes, you could go over here and make a whole bunch of money, So I think that that's so important to say, like, that these people are good without a qualifier on top of it at all. So you owe it to yourself, if you have any time this weekend, to see as many concerts as you can, see all the great things. I make a joke that, like, many of the musicians here become like MAGFest celebrities. They're like MAGFest royalty, I say, this is the only place I feel like Beyonce. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so cool, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's still so familial. So I just wanted to say that.
All right, well, kind of riffing off that, and whoever wants to answer this one, do any of you remember a specific experience of where you wish that you, your org, your industry, whatever it is that you're doing, has done something differently, and if you were to get a chance to do it over, what would you change?
No, because all relationships are learning experiences, my friend.
Yeah, I do. So I think, a lot of, how many of you have been through extensive job interview processes? Everybody? I think this goes along with just being yourself, but I spent a long time running away from music and running away from myself being a musician because I'm good at other things. And I wasn't sure being an artist is impractical in some ways. So this is more kind of my fault and the company's fault, but I kind of hid my music from things. And so I think in screening processes, I just kind of wish HR would dig deeper, not necessarily because anything bad happened, but you get placed in environments sometimes in job things where you may be placed in an org that's team is racially insensitive or doesn't really value the things that you value, and that's happened to me. It would be nice if people were more sensitive about the fact that people have varying interests and varying backgrounds and would do a better job of screening where they end up placing you organizationally. That's all.
I have one.
Anybody else want to take that one?
So similar to what Kadesh said, how do I start this story off? So in college, I studied economics as my major, and I wanted to study music as a minor, and I did not. I pursued French, and I hated every single second of it until maybe my junior year, and I decided that I'm going to do music as a minor anyway, so I had to take a bunch of classes, right? And my senior year, the project that I had the most fun doing was my final project for my electronic music class. And what I actually did was I took sound samples from, I don't think I've ever told you this, I took sound samples from Revenge of the Nerds, and then a bunch of Super Nintendo, like retro, just like Super Mario Kart, and took songs, and I was like making notes out of the sound samples and putting them over the tracks. And after that, I was like, man, that was so much fun, but nobody's ever gonna listen to that, so I'm not gonna do it again, right? And I was like, oh, well, Mega Ran's already doing this thing, because I just discovered him. I was like, not gonna do it. And so for like 3 years, I just started, maybe doodling around on my saxophone and was like playing some jazz gigs in Dallas on the weekends. And finally, I went to one of their shows when they came in town. And I remember this very vividly. I saw the post on the Nerdcore Hip Hop forum, and I tried to convince all of my coworkers to go with me on my process engineering team, right? I'm like, some of them gotta be a little bit nerdy, and nobody went with me. So I went to this concert by myself, and I was like so geeked up. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so cool. I've been listening to you since I was in college. I listen to you all the time. And they were like, oh, that's really cool. And I played a beat for K Murdoch. I don't want to call him by his government name. And I'm not even sure if he remembers this, but he was like, oh, that's really cool. And he's like, you should, keep it up. And literally that moment, I was like, I'm going to start making some more of that nerd course. He probably doesn't remember it, but, I wish that I would have, because I was like 3-year time lapse where I could have been, continuously pursuing and honing my craft. And it was because I just thought nobody would want to listen to my, my thing. And, like Rand said, if you have an idea, just go execute on it, because you never know who might want to listen to it or who might enjoy that idea. But first and foremost, you'll get enjoyment out of it. And the thing is, we're all entertainers up here, right? We sell a product, but first and foremost, we sell an experience. And if you're not enjoying your own experience for what you're creating, there's no way that everybody out there is going to, feel the enjoyment that you're trying to bring to them.
Okay, be quick.
So, piggybacking off of what Emmanuel just said, right? I actually decided to make music at MAGFest, right? And for a long time, it was a deep, dark secret that I just felt ashamed of, because the minute that you tell your family you want to be a rapper or you make rap music, it's kind of like, yeah, you need to do something real. And They didn't even believe that it was me when I first started making it. And Rand turned around and he was like, I'm kind of upset with you. And I was like, why? And he was just like, because you have all of these friends that actually make music, and you make music, but you don't say anything to anyone. So one of the things that I do want to say to everybody here is if you do a thing, please share it. Don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to give your gift to the world, man, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if y'all didn't tell me to do that. And I felt bad.
NPC, believe in yourself. Just do it.
Can I, before we jump into the next question, just to piggyback off that, I do remember that, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Senpai noticed.
I'm not that old. I was gonna say, especially now that I'm teaching at my alma mater, Howard University, and I have these young students, and a lot of them, when they kind of Google me and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were into this stuff," and they come to me now, they'll play me stuff they're like, I can't play this for most of my friends because it's not cool or it's not in vogue, it's not the style, and I tell them the best advice I was ever given, as far as one of the gems I took away from one of the guys I was working with years ago, was don't be, he was like, never be afraid to be yourself, be more afraid to not be yourself. And I think in this day and age, when you see all this, these representations from on TV turning on and seeing Jordan Peele and Issa Rae and Donald Glover really winning, and to me, they're cool, NPC people too. They're nerdy black people too. And I'm like, yo, it's more than ever. I feel like I know it's hard. It's easier said than done to not be yourself and to kind of conform and go along and ride another person's wave. But I feel like if you find what you're into, trust me, in this day and age, with the internet and the connectivity around the world, you're gonna find your peoples. So this just happens to be my people's, but I feel so get your own. But teaching now is great because now I get to see myself 20 years ago, and trust me, the students sometimes let me know when y'all hippity, I don't really like your hippity hoppity style, and they're like, anyway, but. All I'm saying is basically there's something out there for everyone, and if anything, if you take away anything, particularly for me, just don't be afraid. One Up, IQ said, and One Up, just be yourself, man. Share. You never know, cause look what happened. We found one another, and it's just growing, and I'd love to see that continue. So
Yeah. So we expect to see all of you up here on this panel next year. I think that's what he's saying. You got one more?
Okay, we got one more question. And I don't know. Some of the mics were just like, "What? What'd you say?" But I got one more question, and for this one, I would especially like Shubs to answer because you're also the only person that ain't talked yet. Yeah. I love Shubs. I know her. I'm just giving her a hard time.
I love y'all.
So the question is, and if it's okay with Megaran, I'd also like to answer this question. What's the question you are most tired of hearing on diversity in your field? And what would you like to say about it so you never have to answer it again?
Okay, so I'm going to speak in terms of being an Asian Pacific Islander woman and a rapper who is also an intersectional feminist. I hate the question of, don't you think your material is too alienating to potential consumers? Because then, and my real answer to that is, no, shut up. And you can find all of my music at shubzilla.bandcamp.com and Noir Grime. And if you paid me, maybe I'll take what you have to say in consideration. I won't.
So I'm gonna answer this because for those who don't realize, I do diversity and inclusion work for a living. I run a nonprofit. I try to get people in the industry and keep them in the industry. And what I'm very tired of hearing is, I can't find any black people or queer people or, oh my God, these are the most brown people in one spot I've ever seen, so let me pick your brain for free during Q&A. Look, I've been to too many panels and been on them. Look, it's my last thing of the day. Just dunzo. And so what I would like to tell you is, one, Google is your friend. Let me Google that for you is usually my response. It's on the back of my phone case. But also, go out and expand your circle, because you're asking emotional labor of people to basically help you be a better human being and realize there's somebody beside you in your immediate circle. Use Twitter for good. Don't slide in DMs and ask, I saw this thing and it's terribly racist. Ain't you mad as a black person? Because, look, I will screen cap your DM in a hot minute and talk about you. But you're asking labor. And, don't ask your one black friend. Don't come to conventions and go, I don't know any black people. How do I find them? Because I have seen this. No, seriously, I have been at professional conferences in the game industry, was at a panel about Muslim representation, and literally the first question was, I can't find any Muslim game devs, when there's a panel full right in front of them. Mm-hmm. And to the moderator's credit, he said, did you know a thing called Google exists? Nah. So my thing would be is go outside in the literal and figurative sense, read things, educate yourself before you come to us and ask us to educate you, usually for free.
Nice.
Thank you. Might be a little grumpy. It's been a long weekend, y'all. My thing, I'm not necessarily tired of it, but I think that we know the answer. But the thing that I get is, how can I help? What can I do? It's a very simple thing. Pay someone who knows it, or to me, I think the most important thing you can do as an ally is to check your friends, check your family, have these discussions in your circles of friends and groups that we can't get into. Make sure that you are telling them and calling out, any sorts of bigotry that you see, and get your people to hire some people who don't look like them. I think that it really starts with the person. So instead of asking me how to help, I think that you got to go out there and just do it, And I think that it starts with a conversation, tailing on the, I can't find any black people, or I can't find any trans people. Well, talk to your people about how it's not okay to make fun or to be disrespectful towards people who don't look like them or don't sound like them, And I think that's important, is if you're championing that, that's the best way you can be an ally to anybody who maybe isn't in your immediate circle, is to spread the word, and not even just standing on a soapbox being like, diversity, but just do it, that's all. That's like, if it's in your actions, if you're like, oh man, I'm working with some different people on this project. I'm working with this person. Have you heard this person? Have you read this person's article? They're so good, that's it. And that's all you have to do. I think in rap or in music, we call it like putting somebody on. And people always say like, oh, put me on. It just means like, give me the hookup, But in this case, I think it just means shine a light, on someone. And, I think I have no problem doing that. When I see someone writing something amazing, give them that retweet, give them that favorite, give them that share, and make sure that your people see and they know exactly where you come from, so they don't feel comfortable being racist, sexist, or transphobic around you. I think that's important. So, that's it.
It's...
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Hold on, there's more.
To piggyback off of that a little bit, it goes without saying, but I feel like it doesn't at the same time. I would say that it's not good to just reach out because you hear the word diversity and it's like a buzzword and a topic. Like, do it when there's people of quality. Don't just be like, okay, this person's black, or this person's female, this person's trans, whatever. Okay, so I need to do something with them. It's like, no, like if they suck, then don't put them on. You know what I mean? Just make sure that you are evaluating the situation, So don't just do it to do it. Do it because people deserve it. So that's, yeah.
Before you talk.
Okay.
For folks who want to ask questions, can you line up in the middle of the room, and we will get a mic to you. And this is your reminder from anyone who's seen me on a panel this weekend. Have a question. That means an interrogative. And do not have a story. if you got a comment or a two-part question, I'm gonna ask you to go find out where your question is and come back. Now, please go ahead.
Okay, so there was one thing that I wanted to say really quickly too, and it kind of, I've been piecing together things that everybody's been saying. And if you notice back at the question where we asked things that we wish we would have done, it kind of all stemmed back to we wish we would have believed in ourselves, and we could all trace it back to a situation where someone, whether it was here or an educator or someone we looked up to, basically they almost empowered us to believe in ourselves. And earlier in the panel, Xavier, Austin said, we celebrate each other. And it's not to say that we shouldn't celebrate other people. And so I want everybody to take that from this panel is, if you leave here today with one thing that Creative Mind Frame wants you to kind of do is to believe in other people, because when we all believe in ourselves, we're basically endless power, right? We have infinite lives, as Mega Ran might say. And so if we, go ahead. Okay, so yes, just believe in ourselves, believe in other people, and treat everyone with the same respect that you would treat, well, unless you're mean to your siblings, but treat someone who you care about, right? Because that ultimately empowers them to be the best. I didn't want to make the assumption, I know some friends who are kind of, they beat up on their siblings, and I'm like, hey, kind of don't do that. But so yeah, just empower each other to be better every day, and just that will ultimately make the world a better place.
I have one thing before questions. One thing. So to go off this point, anecdotal evidence. So I was an amateur wrestler in high school, and there was a guy who was the captain of the team. His name was Mike Hudson, and he wrestled in the weight class that I wanted to wrestle at, but he was the greatest wrestler in our state. He was incredible. So finally he graduates, and I would always train with him, and I wanted to be just like him, right? So he graduates. There's the first big tournament of the next year. I luckily end up doing well. I end up winning it. And my coach at the time, he asked me, he said, "How do you feel?" I go, "I feel like Mike. This is awesome." And he looks at me dead in my face and he goes, "Why do you feel like Mike? You should feel like Austin." And I was like, legit changed my entire life with that one phrase. And he's just like a hippie dude who traveled around following Fish. Fish the band, he'd follow their concerts. Yeah, no, not following Fish, no. But I'm just saying to him, he legit thought that I was saying that I felt like Mike, and he was legitimately confused at what I was saying. But him just I was thinking of myself in a box, as where he's like, no, make your own box. And so that legit, if you go away with anything, take that.
Nice.
He didn't think you were talking about Michael Jordan.
All right, so Q&A is starting. When the person in front is done with the mic, please pass it back. And again, please keep it to a question. We've got about 15 minutes, so please be respectful of the line forming behind you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is just Mary. I'm an Afro-Latinx with some Black ancestry, white ancestry, and I'm nerdy. And I wanted to know if there's anyone on this panel that could relate to the struggles of being mixed and nerdy, and what advice you would have for someone that deals with the nuances of not, belonging to multiple groups, but at the same time almost not belonging.
I could definitely answer that.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
So I was actually born in West Africa. I'm Ghanaian, and I am also part Lebanese. My parents immigrated to the country when I was 7 days old. And so we grew up in a community where it was a lot of international students. And we moved to Indiana when I was 12. And so I went to a very homogenous, I'm one of maybe 2 Black people in my middle school. And, I'm nerdy, trying to fit in with, the white nerds, it was really pretty much just white people there. but the hardest part of that was, and I think I know what you're getting at, is like you have different cultural backgrounds, and so there are different cultural expectations that are in your household. So you're basically in this like bubble, right, where you're expected to act a certain way, and then you leave and you're trying to enjoy the things that you do while also being the person that your parents are trying to raise you to be, but people are making fun of you for, you know, certain clothes that you might wear. Or I literally remember one kid told me that because my mom she makes lots of West African food, and he said my house smelled like shit. And, you know, I got really mad, you know, and I got in a fight with them. And I think one of the things that is really important to make sure, you know, if you have children or you have nieces or nephews, that you instill on them is the same thing that Xavier said, is to believe in yourself and be proud of yourself. My mom, anytime I'd come back and say, well, this person said this about us, she would say, so what? That was exactly right, because their opinion is irrelevant. You know, as long as you believe in yourself and stay true to who you are, you know, that it empowers you to become the best human being that you can be. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I know I kind of ramble sometimes, so.
Hey, I'm Darren. I wanted to address this question to Shubzilla.
Oh.
I hope you don't. I wanted to ask this question completely as respectful as possible, but with the short time we have. As not only an Asian American, but as a woman in a very male-dominated genre, what was the thing for you that made you go like, F this, I'm doing music anyway?
So I come from a long line of fed up Filipino women that have just had it with men. So that's number one. But number two, so I had mentioned before that I had folks that would, you know, basically control my content. And they like unleashed the beast. It's like, because I'm the type where it's like, oh, you don't think I should say that?
So it was the haters.
Yeah, yeah. That's why the song Alabaster was made. So, you know, people don't like me. People want me to be like on that respectability shit, and I'm like, no, I ain't the one. So that's how I do it.
Well, actually, Shubzilla.
Actually.
Oh,
no. All right, so this is for anyone who wants to answer as briefly as
Can you
possible.
hold the mic closer? We can't.
Hi there. Yeah. So, what's a one moment, like recent moment in the culture that made any of you feel like you actually belonged in nerddom?
I have one. You say one. I would actually say, can I actually borrow this guy?
No.
I would actually say here in 2016. And that was because of Mega Ran. He basically hit us all up. He said, hey, I got this showcase, and... Wait, what?
You're cool.
No, you're
Oh. He was like, yo, they gave me 3 shows for some reason. I'm going to turn them into a showcase, one of them into a showcase, because more of y'all need to be here, and I've been trying to do that for a while. If you could get here, you know, get here. And that showcase really, and the results of it, and just the conversations after it, because we had, it was a room, that room was full. And a lot of things that I've been trying to break into kind of just started happening after being exposed to the depth and the amount of people and the people, what they did and the roles and whatnot, really made me feel like, hey, I actually am in this, I can actually do this, and these people actually accept me. This is my thing. And it's really powerful because to the believing in yourselves points, I think the belief thing is important, but like driving and acting on that belief in yourself is really, really critical, and a lot of people don't do it. It's like you hit this wall where you say, okay, well, this is me, that's cool, I'm fine with that, but then what are you gonna do about it? And I think that was a good, okay, we are actually acting on what we see here, and it culminated, and everything's kind of been accelerating at a borderline exponential level ever since.
Hey, real quick, also, that showcase is archived on MAGFest's YouTube page. So take a look at it, man. It was a very pivotal moment, and people laughed with us, they cried with us. I mean, it was definitely eye-opening.
Mine's quick. So it was probably, honestly, when I started listening to Rand's music. And I got in touch and started talking to him. Because I've always, since that moment with my wrestling coach, I've always been very, like, bet on myself at all times. If I can't trust me, I can't trust anybody type of situation. But in trying to find my way in this culture, it started with, like, all of them. Because not that I didn't think other people out there would like me, because I always go to Dragon Con and there's people there who cosplay and they're black and they like wrestling and all this, and everybody's like cool, but I didn't know really, I guess that this part of me was so strong, and that's what I was missing. Because you know how you can kind of go through life and you know, like, everything is fine, I do my job, I work hard, I might be getting promotions or whatever, relationships are fine, but there's something in the back of your mind that just, you need to fill some sort of void, and you don't know what it is. And like, this was it for me, because I was a kid that my dad didn't understand. So I had burned CDs, remember we used to burn CDs back in the day? Oh. And I'd be in the shower listening to music, and there'd be like a Project Pat song, followed up by a Sonic the Hedgehog song. Yes. And I'd come out, one day I came out of the shower and everything, and my dad goes, "What are you?" He's like, "What is all this music you listen to?" He's like, none of it makes sense together. And it's like, listening to all of them, their music, like, it makes perfect sense. Like, this is what I needed. So it's sometimes you come across it, you just find it, and you're like you said, these are my peoples, and you feel that when it happens.
I think, quick thing. I think it was the beginning of this year. I mean, there's been several moments, but I think getting the a Guinness World Record, I think, is something that absolutely, like, completely blew my mind and sent me to another place where I was like, what? Like, this is something that I thought over whether I should be doing in my bedroom, and then people are telling me that they hear it and they're inspired by it, and I was like, but no one's gonna like it, but they're gonna dish you, but they're gonna say you're stupid, And I fought with it so much, and then to be able to, like, go to London and go into the Guinness offices and be like, and get an award, I thought that was just something amazing. With myself and Austin.
I think mine's gone.
Wait, what?
Jack Black. I had a Guinness World Record for a YouTube channel, and I think Jack Black beat it in like a week after it took me like 3 years to get it, but no big deal.
Oh. You tried. So, no. Everybody subscribe to Up, Up, Down, Down. Let's get them back up there. Check. I think that was it for me.
For me, it's being in a museum currently. I'm in exhibit at the Victoria and Albert in London. And that was a very strange but awesome validation, and actually getting to walk into a museum and see something I contributed to. And also very weird to walk in and see yourself in an exhibit and be alive. It was very strange. All right, thank you. Just, we have 5 minutes. We probably won't get to everyone in line. We'll try, so be quick. Okay.
All right, first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for coming out. Shout out to you, Rand, because you did a thing at BlurCon last year with my boy Loading Snacks. We grew up together. Thanks for that. Just a kind of general question. Any one of you guys can take it. Where was that turning point for you where you decided that you wanted to kind of quit your day job and move on to what you wanted to love, like do that kind of thing?
I'll do a quick answer. For me, never, because I still work at my day job. And I love it. Sorry.
So it was a combination of things for me. I figured out that I would eventually do this when I was finishing up my MBA. I was 24 years old. I had run away from music 3 times, and I was like, okay, well, I'm about to get a dope-ass job. That's going to be awesome. But I was also putting up a song on YouTube like every week, and they were doing numbers, and people were emailing me about how much it affected them and stuff. And I fell in love with how much of an impact that made lyrically. So you fast forward a few years to 2017, I'm working at a hot startup. It's great. I'm playing all the time. I'm traveling around the country playing shows. I'm also a session trombonist. I'm playing on people's albums. And I just ran out of bandwidth. I had in my plan, I was gonna leave my company in March 2018 in my head. That would have been 2 years at this company. The chief sales officer told me he only expected me to be there 2 years. He's like, you're either gonna get poached to be an AVP somewhere else, or you're gonna figure out the music thing. We see it in you, blah, blah, blah. But the bandwidth just ran out. And so 9 months early, I bounced. I had saved way less money than I expected because I bounced 9 months early. But that's just how it happened. For me, it was really just I ran out of room and had to make a decision, and I made the right one.
Nice. October 9th, 2016.
My album, I made an album called Black Materia, 2011, and one day I looked on the internet, and it was like on the first page of Reddit, and I was like, whoa, this is cool, but what's Reddit? But it's 2011. And then by the end of that day, it was like number 18 or something on the iTunes rap charts, like above like Lil Wayne or something, and I was like, Lil Wayne doesn't have a day job, I'm out.
Thank you so much. All right, I have a musical question. So obviously, Shubzilla is amazing, but also kind of vulgar, which is why we love her.
We do, yeah.
So my question is, for those of you who shy away from or have no sort of like vulgarity or profanity in your music, could you see yourself working with or collabing with artists that do contain that sort of vulgarity?
Oh yeah.
Or like,
I mean,
okay.
It's very clear. We all work with her, so.
Right, but.
Absolutely.
Right, you do work with her, but I've also seen you, in particular,
Yeah.
shy away from other nerdcore artists because they were using the N-word and this, that, and the third. She obviously can't do that.
That's a different. No, that's a different type of vulgarity, though. I don't collaborate with anybody using the N-word or the F-word. That's just me personally, because I just don't think there's any place for that in any part of society. So that's just me. I don't think anybody should be using them, but you know.
So IQ, are you in agreement with that, Kadesh? Are you?
I'm not as hard line on the N-word. But generally speaking, I generally take that stance though. Most of that though is I want my mom to be able to listen to my music. That's really, for the most part, the bottom line for me. I make some exceptions for that. On the Brass and Bougie album with the jazz orchestra that I did, I covered Kendrick Lamar's All Right. I said all the words. I had promised my mom I wouldn't swear in my raps. It's a caveat because it's still technically not my rap.
Okay, real quick. I don't curse in my music at all, right? But it's not because I have an issue with artists who do. It is the meaning and the sentiment behind your words, right? Because words are powerful. So for me, it is in your expression of what you're saying and why you're saying. And I also look at certain words as cheat words when it comes to rapping, because they can be put in anything. You can say the N-word and put it next to anything. It doesn't mean you're dope. It's a cheat word.
Right. Thank you for your question. Thank you.
Code of rap.
This is towards Xavier. Do you feel that there is a demographic in WWE that an African American cannot win the main event or headline WrestleMania or get that big push to win, like the world championship, so to say?
No, I don't think so. I feel like there are certain reasons that people win championships, whether it's their in-ring ability, whether it's their ability on the microphone. And I feel like since it's been such a thing, since that there hasn't been a black heavyweight champion to hold the main heavyweight title, I think when it happens, it has to be someone who is not qualified. It has to be someone who's overqualified. Because something my dad told me when I was little, he said, simply based on the color of your skin, you have to do 50% more to get 100% of the credit. So I think in that situation, it's like a, not to make light of it, but it's like if somebody who's trash gets the title and they're black, and it's like, well, we gave you one and you messed it up. You know what I mean? What's that?
Explains Brock Lesnar.
No comment. Hey. Yeah.
Come on, the man
But-
will show up to work.
Pass the mic. Next question.
Shots fired.
Thank you.
All right. I have a question, mainly my man in the Beast as Parappa Hat, Xavier. You brought up where someone said you spoke eloquently. Well, I have a question for everyone here. What would be your best response to someone saying, "Hey, wow, you talk white"? How would you respond to that?
I speak English.
How are you supposed to, like, what does that even mean?
Yes, I does. I also got a good college education.
You stole my answer, damn. No, he literally stole my answer, so. Yes, next, please, unless someone else got a reply.
Hi, so I know as like nerds of color, we can all relate to the experience of being made fun of for what we love. But I feel like nowadays in 2019, like adult nerddom is like kind of mainstream, especially with like the advent of like new Marvel movies, especially like Black Panther and like even like anime references and like contemporary mumble rap. So it's like real nerds. Like, do you guys like the mainstreamness of like nerddom, or do you feel like gatekeepers? Do you kind of feel like y'all late? I've been doing this, or like
I wrote a song about that, and like I get that a lot. People ask like, "Oh man, aren't you like you were the guy who got teased for being nerdy? Now these guys are like winning for being nerdy. Like, shouldn't you be mad?" No, I'm just glad that like we've been kind of reiterating it. I'm just glad that kids don't have to go through what we went through. Like I think it's dope. Black kids are skateboarding and they're doing all this cool stuff that we were like for some reason afraid to do because of some invisible rule. And I'm just glad that that stuff's not there, man. I love when I see, awkward black kids just being themselves or brown kids being themselves. I think we're in an awesome place. So I could be mad, but what's the point? I hate the idea of a fake nerd thing. I see something like fake nerd, I immediately like run away. I block it. I just like, no, I don't want to see that. Like the fake nerd versus the real nerd and the fake girl geek because she's wearing glasses. Shouldn't you? I don't subscribe to any of it. I do understand, but I think that we should all be excited that we live in a better place, you know what I mean, than that, that's all.
I think a quick quote to kind of wrap that in is a rising tide raises all ships.
That's good. Deep.
Hey! Thank you for the question.
Last question. This better be good. No pressure.
All right, so I guess I gotta figure out how to word this still. So you guys are like artists, like musicians, and I guess visual artists, and I think that musicians and visual artists have seen a lot more, especially among people of color, have seen like a little more success lately. But on the other hand, the education system is, as it always has been, set dead against us, especially, particularly for male people of color. So when you're making digital content, there are a lot of barriers in the traditional education system, especially going like K through 12 and then on to, post-secondary education like college and things. So I guess my question would be is like, as artists, how would you help like artists who have to go through school now, like digital content creators? Like, could you build a support system to lift each other up, I guess?
All right. Oh, go ahead.
So just to paraphrase so that I got you. How do we uplift those that are up and coming to get to what we're doing, or how to thrive in what they want to do?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Ready?
No, do it. I just need clarification.
Oh, okay. So to begin to answer your question, we are educators, right? You don't necessarily need a degree to educate someone or to uplift someone or to teach someone. And I think if more of us start taking responsibility for building us up instead of breaking each other down, we'll see those changes. Regardless of what your kids go through in the educational system, you know that it wasn't built for them, right? That means that you should be working twice as hard to make sure that you're teaching those who need it, right? So one thing I used to do in Orlando is I did an open mic night for artists, right? And not just not just artists of color, all artists. And I would take artists that were smaller and I would help build them up by teaching them what I knew at the time. And if more of us do that, it raises the bar. See, what you're looking at right now is that work in progress, right? You're seeing the result of it. You're here for it because you are seeing how it can work. And I challenge you all to do it in your communities the same way.
What I would also say is be visible when you can, because that makes a world of difference. Because a lot of times, I know a lot of us do things and we may be the only person of color on a panel, and how many people have gone to panels where it's like all white dudes? And it's always the same white dudes at every convention you go to.
Yep.
So
Oh, God.
having someone there, and not to be on the diversity panel, I want to talk about music. I want to talk about what I do that doesn't have to do about diversity, because that visibility is going to make the world of difference. Even if someone is too shy to come talk to you, to write you later, to do anything, seeing that brown face on a panel, on TV, on Twitch, whatever, that's going to make the difference. And that will make you know you are not alone.
That's right.
I got one
Representation
thing
is
to say.
everything. Everything.
Tying this back to the whole theme which I've created within this panel is teaching people to believe in themselves, right? Because what you just outlined is a system where whoever gets failed by that system, whoever the educator is or the person that they look up to, right, has taught them not to believe in themselves. And if ultimately when you believe in yourselves, when we said that every story we gave, we said when we started believing in ourselves, we started looking for information, reaching out, and really pursuing it. And so when you believe in yourself, right, then you effectively empower yourself to set your own path. So you're not waiting for someone to give you permission. And I can look at everybody here and say, if you reached out to us with a question about, hey, how did you change your vocal to sound like this? Or, hey, I'm working on this beat and I did this. I can say that pretty much all of us would probably answer your question. I've never turned someone away who has asked me a question about audio stuff. In fact, I send to this guy, so he's laughing because I'll text him, I'll be like, hey, I'm working on this track and there's something wrong with it and I can't really figure out what's wrong with it. Can you listen to it and give me feedback? And then he gives me that feedback, right? So even within ourselves, we're educating each other. Even, I think Sky Blue reached out to me like 4 years ago asking how I made vocals that he sent me sound crisp. And so I literally said, just call me on Google Hangouts and I'll walk you through the program that I'm using and show you what I did. And like a year ago, he said he's still using that same stuff. It's just believe in yourself enough that you're willing to ask, right? Know that you're worth someone's time. If you're willing to learn, there's going to be someone out there that's willing to educate you. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We are teaching people to believe in themselves. I just realized at this panel, so I learned something myself, our own panel.
Well, thank you for the question. I think that we've definitely learned that about believing in yourself, and I think that it's just fitting and that you would be Parappa the Rapper, whose term is, I gotta believe. I think we're done.
All right, well, thanks for everyone being on the panel. And very quickly, before we all disperse, who are you, what do you do, and where can folks find you on the internets? Starting with Shub, since the mic is here.
I'm Shubzilla. I am a rapper. Shubzilla anywhere. noirgrime.com.
Megaran. On Twitter, it's at Megaran. It looks like Meg Ryan, though, when you squish it together. It's not, but just saying.
I am Austin Creed, aka Xavier Woods. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Xavier Woods PhD. My Twitch is Austin Creed. What's the other one? YouTube. It's up, down, down. So go subscribe if you have yet to subscribe already. And at 7:45 in Panels 3, I'll be on Celebrity Edition of Versus. So come through to that.
Nice. I am Creative Mindframe. Business process engineer, rapper, jazz musician, nerdcore, ninja hopeful. Oh, go to my Twitter and retweet my pinned video. That's my Ninja Warrior audition tape. So that would be really helpful. The casting group actually liked it, so I'm trying to get as much traction as possible. But pretty much you can search me anywhere as Creative Mindframe and you'll find me. That's it.
K Murdoch Audio Creative at Neosonics, Neosonix. And if you want to email me, it's hotmail@hotmail.com. No, it's
Find out at Kadesh Flow. Everything. Everything.
Oh.
Everything. Kadesh Flow. You feel me?
IQ. Music, MUSICEYEQ on most things, or just by my name, Christ Allen. Christ like Jesus, ALLEN.
Christ like Jesus.
All right, we're done.
I heard
Thanks,
a funny
y'all.
joke. Let me tell you my silly joke before we get out of here. I just said, yo, we're doing the NPC panel. Come through. And somebody on my Twitter was like, well, if you ever want to do a lack of NPC panel, make sure you talk about Fallout 76.
Real quick, before y'all walk out the room, can I get
There's
everybody to
no
come forward so we can take a quick picture?
We'd love to take a picture.
Cool with y'all?
Photo.
Quick picture.
Oh, and I'm performing tonight, 9:30 in Mega Manathon stage.